revealed the dark secrets of the haunting of Blackwood Manor. The winding road leading to Blackwood Manor seemed to stretch on forever, each twist and turn deepening the sense of isolation that surrounded the ancient estate. Sarah gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles turning white as she navigated the narrow path. The countryside was bathed in the soft hues of twilight, casting long shadows that danced across the landscape. As the manor came into view, Sarah couldn't help but feel a shiver run down her spine. The imposing structure loomed ahead, its dark silhouette cutting a stark contrast against the fading light of the day. The windows were like empty eyes, watching her every move with silent judgment. With a sigh, Sarah pulled the car to a stop in front of the grand entrance. She had inherited Blackwood Manor from her late uncle, a distant relative she had barely known. The news of her inheritance had come as a shock, but as she gazed up at the looming facade, she couldn't deny a twinge of excitement mingled with apprehension. Stepping out of the car, Sarah took a moment to gather her thoughts. The air was crisp and cool, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves. The sound of her footsteps echoed in the stillness, each one a reminder of the solitude that awaited her within the walls of the manor. As she approached the front door, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled over her. The wood was weathered and worn, the brass knocker tarnished with age. She hesitated for a moment, her hand hovering inches away from the cold metal, before finally summoning the courage to knock. The sound echoed through the empty halls, reverberating off the walls like a mournful cry. For a moment there was only silence, broken only by the rustling of leaves in the breeze. And then, slowly, the door creaked open, revealing the dimly lit interior of the manor beyond. With a steadying breath, Sarah stepped over the threshold and into the unknown. The foyer was cavernous and dimly lit, the air heavy with the scent of dust and decay. Cobwebs clung to the corners, and the floorboards groaned under her weight as she made her way further into the heart of the house. The walls were adorned with faded portraits of stern-faced ancestors, their eyes following Sarah's every move with unblinking intensity. She felt a chill run down her spine as she passed them by, their gaze seeming to pierce straight through her soul. Despite the eerie atmosphere, Sarah pressed on. She had come to Blackwood Manor seeking answers, and she refused to be deterred by the whispers of the past. With each step she took, her resolve strengthened, until at last she found herself standing before the grand staircase that led to the upper floors. As she climbed the stairs, the air grew colder, the shadows deeper. She could hear the faint sound of her own heartbeat echoing in the silence, a steady rhythm that seemed to guide her forward. And then, suddenly, she reached the top, and the world seemed to hold its breath. The corridor stretched out before her, disappearing into the darkness like a gaping maw. Doors lined either side, their surfaces worn and weathered with age. Sarah hesitated for a moment, unsure of where to go next, before finally choosing a door at random and pushing it open. Inside, the room was dimly lit by the soft glow of the moon filtering through the curtains. Dust motes danced in the air, swirling in the gentle breeze that drifted through the open window. Sarah stepped further into the room, her eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of life. And then, suddenly, she saw a flicker of movement in the corner of her eye, fleeting and ephemeral. She turned towards it, her heart pounding in her chest, but there was nothing there. Only darkness, stretching out before her like an endless abyss. With a shiver, Sarah backed out of the room and closed the door behind her. The air felt heavy with the weight of secrets long buried, and she knew that she had only scratched the surface of the mysteries that lay hidden within Blackwood Manor. But despite the fear that gnawed at her insides, she couldn't deny the thrill of excitement that coursed through her veins. For better or worse, Blackwood Manor was now her home, and as she stood alone in the darkness, Sarah knew that her journey had only just begun. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah delved deeper into the history of Blackwood Manor. She spent countless hours poring over dusty tomes in the library, searching for any mention of the mysterious occurrences that seemed to plague the house. The pages were filled with tales of the Blackwood family's illustrious past of grand balls and lavish parties. Of scandal and intrigue there was little to shed light on the eerie phenomena that had drawn Sarah to the manor in the first place. Undeterred, Sarah pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. She spoke with local historians and consulted ancient manuscripts, piecing together fragments of the past in her quest for answers. Slowly but surely, A picture began to emerge, a tale of love and betrayal, of curses and revenge that stretched back centuries. One night, as Sarah sat alone in the library, the flickering flames of the fire casting long shadows across the room, she felt a chill run down her spine. The air seemed to crackle with energy, and she had the distinct sensation of being watched. She glanced nervously over her shoulder, half expecting to see a figure lurking in the darkness, but there was nothing there. Shaking off her unease, Sarah returned her attention to the task at hand. She had stumbled upon a passage in one of the ancient tomes that spoke of a tragic love affair that had ended in death, a forbidden romance between two members of the Blackwood family that had torn them apart and left a curse upon the house. As she read on, Sarah's heart raced. Could it be that the spirits that haunted Blackwood Manor were the restless souls of those who had been wronged in love? It seemed like the stuff of legends, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than met the eye. Determined to uncover the truth, Sarah continued her investigation. She ventured into the darkest corners of the manor, her footsteps echoing in the empty halls. Every now and then, she thought she heard whispers or felt a cold breeze brush past her, but she dismissed them as figments of her imagination. She refused to let fear get the better of her. And then, one night, as she lay awake in bed, Sarah heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoing through the halls. Her heart pounding, she sat up in bed and listened intently, her senses on high alert. The footsteps drew closer and closer until they were right outside her door. With trembling hands, Sarah reached for the candle on her bedside table and lit it, casting a soft glow around the room. She held her breath, waiting for whatever was lurking in the darkness to reveal itself. And then, suddenly, the door creaked open, and a figure stepped into the room. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as she stared at the shadowy figure before her. It was tall and slender, its features obscured by the darkness. She opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. All she could do was watch in horror as the figure advanced towards her, its eyes burning with a fierce intensity. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure vanished into thin air, leaving Sarah alone in the darkness once more. She clutched the candle tightly in her trembling hands, her mind racing with 1,000 questions. What had she just witnessed? Was it a trick of the light, or something more sinister? Despite her fear, Sarah refused to give up. She had come too far to turn back now. With renewed determination, she set out to uncover the truth behind the haunting of Blackwood Manor, no matter what dangers lay in wait. For she knew that only by confronting the ghosts of the past could she ever hope to find peace in her new home. As the days stretched into weeks, Sarah's investigation into the mysteries of Blackwood Manor grew increasingly intense. She pored over ancient texts and consulted with experts, determined to uncover the truth behind the haunting that seemed to permeate every corner of the estate. One evening, as Sarah sat alone in the library, surrounded by piles of dusty tomes, she stumbled upon a revelation that sent shivers down her spine. It was a passage hidden deep within the pages of an old journal that had once belonged to one of the former residents of Blackwood Manor. The entry spoke of a forbidden love affair between two members of the Blackwood familiar, love that had been torn apart by jealousy and betrayal. It told of a curse that had been placed upon the house as punishment for their transgressions, a curse that condemned the souls of the lovers to wander the halls of Blackwood Manor for all eternity. As Sarah read on, her heart ached with empathy for the star-crossed lovers. She could feel their pain and longing emanating from the pages of the journal, their voices whispering to her from beyond the grave. And in that moment, she knew what she had to do. Armed with newfound purpose, Sarah set out to free the spirits of Blackwood Manor from the curse that bound them. She delved deeper into the history of the house, searching for clues that would lead her to the source of the haunting. With each passing day, Sarah uncovered more pieces of the puzzle. She learned of the tragic fate that had befallen the lovers, their untimely deaths, their restless spirits doomed to wander the halls of Blackwood Manor for all eternity. But amidst the darkness, she also found traces of hope, a glimmer of light in the depths of despair. Guided by her intuition, Sarah embarked on a quest to break the curse that had plagued Blackwood Manor for centuries. She consulted with local historians and studied ancient rituals, piecing together a plan to set the trapped souls free. And then, one fateful night, everything changed. as Sarah stood alone in the darkness of the manor's grand hall. Surrounded by the echoes of the past, she felt a presence stir within the shadows. It was the spirits of the lovers, reaching out to her from the depths of the beyond. With trembling hands, Sarah began to recite the words of the ancient ritual passed down through generations, whispered in hushed tones by those who had come before her. The air crackled with energy as she spoke, the words filling the room with a sense of power and purpose. And then, suddenly, the room was filled with light. Sarah shielded her eyes against the glare, unable to believe what she was seeing. The spirits of the lovers stood before her, their forms ethereal and translucent, bathed in a soft golden glow. Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she gazed upon the reunited lovers. She could feel the weight of the curse lifting from the house, the air growing lighter with each passing moment. And as she watched, the spirits began to fade, their presence growing fainter and fainter until they were nothing more than whispers on the wind. With a sense of peace washing over her, Sarah knew that her work was done. Blackwood Manor was no longer haunted by the ghosts of its past. It was a place of healing, a sanctuary for lost souls to find their way home. As she stood alone in the darkness, Sarah felt a sense of gratitude wash over her. She had come to Blackwood Manor seeking answers, but in the end, she had found so much more. And though the shadows of the past would always linger, she was no longer afraid. For in the heart of Blackwood Manor, she had discovered the true meaning of love, forgiveness, and redemption.